Let's talk about samskaras for a second. So a samskar is a ball of undigested emotion. And what I mean by that is, like, generally speaking, we have experiences in life, and we have some capacity to digest emotions, and we have some capacity to not digest emotions. And then what happens as a result of, like, undigested emotions is they kind of, like, they continue to affect us. So I'm going to give you guys... okay. Thank you guys very much for raiding, and thanks to Rekful for the raid, but I'm going to keep talking. I'm going to just plow forward because it's hard for me to engage with chat. So I'm going to give you guys my classic example to understand a samskar. So let's say, how do I do this chat in slow mode? I don't even know how to do that. Okay. I don't know how to use Twitch, guys. I'm a boomer. Like, absolutely boomer. Millennial boomer. So I'll give you guys an example. So let's say, like, I'm walking, so I have a 4-year-old kid. And let's say that I'm walking down the street with my 4-year-old, and she sees a dog. And she goes out and pets the dog. And then the dog, like, gives her a little nip. So she starts to cry. And she gets, like, really, really scared. And the first thing that happens in her mind is she gets, like, very afraid, right? That's the first emotional response. And that emotion sort of creates, like, she has this ball of fear around a dog. And then I kind of check her out, make sure she's okay, sort of calm her down a little bit. And then what happens is I take her, like, let's say there's an ice cream store. So I take her and get some ice cream. And then she's eating her ice cream. And after eating her ice cream, she feels way better. And so, like, where did that fear go? Like, all of that fear that she had seems to disappear, and she is completely happy. She's laughing. She's eating her ice cream. And then what happens is she's walking down the street, and she sees a dog the next day, and then she starts to cry. Because when she sees that dog, all of that fear, which had lived within her the day before, reemerges. And she kind of had this traumatic experience, right? That's the way that we think about trauma. And so that fear, like, pops back up. And then she starts crying again. And then I have to calm her down. And maybe the next day, if she sees another dog, she'll get re-triggered. So we think about that as trauma. And so that ball of undigested emotion is, in Sanskrit, the yogis called that a samskar. So let's pretend that I'm walking down the street and I reach out to pet a dog and it bites me. So I too will feel fear. But there are other parts of my mind, like my intellect, my rationalization capability, that step in and are able to, like, help me metabolize that emotion. I don't need ice cream to help me forget. I can actually think through stuff. And as I think through that stuff, I start to think to myself, oh man, like, that was kind of stupid. Maybe I shouldn't have, talked to maybe I shouldn't have pet that dog. Maybe I should ask people if they're friendly. It's okay. Like, that was kind of a stupid thing to do. And about half an hour later, I feel fine. And the next day when I see a dog, like, I don't get triggered. I may get a little bit of an emotional response. I may get a little bit of adrenaline. May get a little bit anxious. But I don't get triggered the same way that a 4-year-old does. So what's the difference between a 4-year-old and me? It's because my mind is more well-developed, and I'm able to metabolize that emotion instead of distracting from it. And the more that I digest that emotion, the less the samskar exists, the more the samskar gets dissolved. So what we saw with Rekful today is that he still has that samskar, right? It doesn't take, like, you have to ask the right kind of question. You have to get to the samskar. So, like, part of what I do is, like, I've been trained in this stuff, so I sort of know how to ask questions to get to the samskar. And we get to that samskar, and there's that 5-year-old that's still, like, traumatized by losing his brother. And so he can distract himself with ice cream, he can distract himself with photography, he can distract himself with video games. But that emotional block is still there, and that needs to be metabolized. That debuff is still there. The debuff has to be cleansed, right? You got to heal that shit. And the way that you cleanse it is by first diagnosing it, because let's remember that good diagnosis precedes good treatment. So the first thing you have to do is, like, understand that that's what the problem is. And that's what we helped Rekful do today. We helped him diagnose it. So now at least he's got a clue. Like, he thought that his life was full of depression and his life had no meaning. And that's because it's true in a sense. He lost his meaning. When he was like 6, like, his life lost meaning. Because that's what it was. His meaning was to go home and like play games with his brothers, and then one of his brothers left forever. And he says that he's forgiven, but I don't know if he's fully forgiven, to be honest. I think that the 30-year-old Reckful has forgiven. I don't know if the 6-year-old Reckful has. I'd be very surprised if there wasn't like some part of the 6-year-old or the 10-year-old who still blames his brother. I don't doubt that the 30-year-old one has. But I think that's tough. Tough. Worth having another conversation about.